The starship Wanderer had been traveling through empty space for 3 long years. Captain Danny Cole stood on the bridge and looked out at the stars. He was a simple man from a small town in Ohio. Before joining the space program, he had worked on cargo ships that moved supplies between planets. He never thought he would be the one to make first contact with aliens. "Captain, something is coming through the transit point," said Lieutenant Megan Price. She was sitting at the communication station, her eyes fixed on her screen. Danny walked closer to the main view screen. A purple cloud of energy swirled in the distance, and from within it, a massive ship emerged. It was unlike anything Danny had ever seen. The ship was shaped like a crescent moon, and its surface glowed with soft silver light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "That ship is 10 times our size," said Commander Lisa Vance. She was Danny's second in command, a serious woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes. "We should be careful, Captain." Danny nodded slowly. "Open a channel, Megan. Let them know we come in peace." Megan's fingers moved across her console. "Channel opened, sir." Before Danny could speak, the view screen changed. The stars disappeared, and in their place appeared a vast chamber filled with alien beings. Danny felt his breath catch in his throat. The aliens were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. Their colors shifted between silver and pale blue as they moved. Their faces were almost human, with high cheekbones and delicate features. But their eyes were completely different. They were solid pools of deep violet with no whites or pupils. Thin membranes on the sides of their heads fluttered gently, like the wings of butterflies. There were dozens of them, sitting in rows that rose up like steps in a theater. At the center of the chamber, on a raised platform, sat 2 figures. One was older, dressed in robes that seemed to be made of liquid gold. She wore a crown of crystal that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. This was clearly their leader. Beside her stood a younger female. Her skin had hints of rose mixed with the silver, and she watched the view screen with intense curiosity. Danny guessed she was important, perhaps a daughter or heir. "Human vessel," the older alien spoke. Her voice came through the speakers, somehow translated into English. It was cold and powerful. "I am Sovereign Valara, ruler of the Velkari Empire. You have entered our space without permission. Explain yourself or face the consequences." Danny straightened his uniform. It was wrinkled and stained from the long journey, but it was all he had. "Your Majesty, I am Captain Danny Cole of the Earth vessel Wanderer. We have traveled a long way to find intelligent life. We come in peace. We want friendship, trade, and understanding between our peoples." Whispers spread through the alien council. Some of them laughed quietly. The Sovereign's expression did not change, but her eyes seemed to grow colder. "Friendship." She repeated the word like it tasted strange. "Your ship is small and primitive. Your species is young. The Velkari Empire has existed for 50,000 years. We have conquered stars and built wonders beyond your imagination. What could humans possibly offer us?" Danny opened his mouth to answer, but he was interrupted by a loud alarm. "Captain!" shouted Ensign Kevin Park from the sensor station. He was the youngest member of the crew, barely 22 years old. His face had gone pale. "3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace behind us. They are not Velkari. They are charging weapons." The view screen split in 2. On one side, Danny could still see the Velkari Council. On the other side, he saw the newcomers. These ships were completely different from the elegant Velkari vessel. They were black and jagged, covered in sharp edges and spikes. They seemed to swallow the light around them like holes in space itself. Looking at them made Danny feel cold inside. The reaction in the Velkari Council was immediate. The calm, superior attitude vanished. Aliens jumped to their feet. their membranes fluttering wildly. Some of them cried out in fear. Even the Sovereign's face changed, her cold mask cracking to reveal something that looked like terror. The younger female, the one with rose-tinted skin, stepped forward. Her voice cut through the chaos, clear and steady despite the fear in her eyes. "The Dracor," she said. "They have found us." Danny did not know what the Dracor were, but he could see what they meant to the Valkyrie. These were not just enemies. They were nightmares. "Sovereign Valara," Danny said quickly. "What are we dealing with here?" The Sovereign seemed to collect herself with great effort. "The Dracor are destroyers. They consume civilizations and leave nothing behind. We have hidden from them for 300 years. If they are here, it means our hiding is over." On the view screen, the Valkyrie warships were moving to intercept the black vessels. They were graceful and fast, clearly advanced in their technology. But Danny noticed something in the way the Dracor ships moved. They were confident. They were not worried about the Valkyrie at all. "They are targeting the Valkyrie flagship," Kevin reported. His voice was shaking. Lisa grabbed Danny's arm. "Captain, this is not our fight. We should retreat while we still can. Our ship is a cargo vessel. We have no real weapons. We would be destroyed in seconds." Danny looked at his crew. Megan was watching him with wide eyes. Kevin was trembling at his station. Lisa was right. They had no business being here. They were outmatched in every possible way. But then Danny looked back at the view screen. He saw the fear on the faces of the Valkyrie. He saw the rose-skinned princess standing tall despite her terror. He saw the black ships moving closer, hungry and unstoppable. "If we run now," Danny said slowly, "and the Dracor destroy the Valkyrie, how long before they find Earth? Days? Weeks? We did not travel 3 years through empty space to run away at the first sign of trouble." "Captain, we will die," Lisa said flatly. "Maybe," Danny agreed. "But we will die trying to help. That has to count for something." He turned to Megan. "Open a channel to the Sovereign." The view screen focused on the Valkyrie Council again. The Sovereign looked surprised to see the humans still there. "Your Majesty," Danny said, "we request permission to assist in the defense of your people." Silence fell over the council. Then one of the older aliens began to laugh. It was not a kind sound. "Your vessel is a transport ship," he said with contempt. "You have nothing that could hurt the Dracor. You would be destroyed before you could fire a single shot." "Probably," Danny admitted. "But we are offering anyway." The princess stepped forward, her violet eyes locked on Danny's face. "You would die for people you have only just met? People who have shown you nothing but arrogance." Danny met her gaze without flinching. "Where I come from, you do not need to know someone to do the right thing. You just do it." The first Dracor weapons fired. 2 Valkyrie ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The battle had begun. Danny turned to his crew. "All hands, battle stations. Kevin, scan those Dracor ships. Find me a weak point, anything at all. Lisa, route all power to forward shields. Megan, tell the Valkyrie we are coming to help, whether they want us to or not." The Wanderer surged forward, a small and battered cargo ship diving into the heart of a war between giants. On the Valkyrie flagship, Princess Alinder watched the tiny human vessel charge toward certain death. And for the first time in her long life, she did not know what to think. The space around Transit Point 7 had become a storm of fire and light. Valkyrie warships moved in elegant formations, their weapons sending beams of blue energy toward the Dracor attackers. But the black ships seemed to absorb the attacks. Their jagged hulls glowed briefly with each hit, then returned to darkness. They kept coming. Danny gripped the arms of his command chair as the Wanderer shook from a nearby explosion. A Valkyrie cruiser had just been torn apart, its pieces spinning past the view screen like broken toys. "Status report," Danny called out. "Shields at 80%, Lisa responded from her station. "We have not been targeted yet. I think they do not consider us a threat." "Good. Let them think that." Danny turned to Kevin. "Did you find anything? Any weakness in those ships?" Kevin's hands were moving rapidly across his console. Sweat was running down his face. "I am scanning as fast as I can, Captain. Their armor is incredibly dense. Nothing should be able to penetrate it." He paused, his eyes widening. "Wait, I found something. Tell me." "There is a thermal exhaust port on the back section of each ship. It is small, barely 2 meters wide. But the shielding there is minimal. If we can hit it with enough concentrated energy, we might cause a chain reaction in the reactor." Lisa shook her head. "Our mining lasers were designed to cut through asteroids, not warships. And that is a tiny target. The chances of hitting it while dodging enemy fire are almost zero." "Almost zero is not zero," Danny said. "Megan, can you calculate a firing solution?" Megan was pale, but her voice was steady. "I can try, Captain. But we will need to get very close. Within 500 meters. Then we get close." Danny looked at his crew. They were scared. He was scared too. But sometimes fear did not matter. Sometimes you just had to act. "Listen to me. I know this seems impossible, but those Valkyrie ships are dying out there. They are fighting something they have feared for 300 years. We can help them. We can make a difference. And that is worth the risk." No one argued. They trusted him. Danny hoped that trust was not misplaced. "Take us in," he ordered. Full speed toward the lead Dracor vessel. The Wanderer accelerated, its old engines groaning with the effort. On the tactical display, Danny watched their position move closer and closer to the massive black ship. It was like watching an ant approach a giant. The Dracor finally noticed them. A beam of red energy lanced toward the Wanderer, and the ship rocked violently. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge. "Shields down to 40%, Lisa shouted. "Another hit like that, and we are finished." "Evasive maneuvers," Danny commanded. "Kevin, keep scanning. Megan, be ready to fire the moment we have a clear shot." The Wanderer twisted and turned through space, dodging debris and weapons fire. Danny had never been a military man, but he had spent years navigating asteroid fields and cargo runs. He knew how to move through chaos. Another Valkyrie ship exploded nearby. Then another. The battle was going badly. The Dracul were simply too strong, their ships too advanced. The elegant Valkyrie fleet was being torn apart, piece by piece. On the Valkyrie flagship, Princess Alindra watched the human vessel weaving through the battlefield. She could not understand it. The humans had no chance. Their ship was slow and weak. They should have fled when they had the opportunity. Instead, they were charging toward the most dangerous enemy in the galaxy. "Mother," she said, "what are they doing?" Sovereign Valara's face was grim. "They are dying. That is what they are doing. Foolish creatures." But Alindra was not so sure. There was something in the way the human ship moved. It was not random. It had purpose. "Captain Cole," Alindra transmitted, "what is your plan?" Danny's voice came through, strained but determined. "We found a weakness, Princess. A thermal exhaust port on their ships. If we can hit it, we might take one down." "That is a tiny target," Alindra said. "Your weapons are primitive. You cannot succeed." "Maybe not. But we are going to try anyway." The Wanderer was now less than 1,000 meters from the lead Dracor ship. The black vessel loomed on the view screen like a mountain of darkness. Its weapons were turning toward them, preparing to fire. 500 meters, Megan reported. Her voice was barely a whisper. I have the target. Mining lasers locked. Fire. Danny ordered. Twin beams of yellow energy shot from the Wanderer's hull. They were not elegant like the Valkyrie weapons or terrifying like the Drakor beams. They were simple industrial tools designed to break apart rocks. But Megan's aim was perfect. The beam struck the thermal exhaust port dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Danny's heart sank. Then he saw it. A glow spreading from the impact point, growing brighter. The Drakor ship began to shake. "Get us out of here," Danny shouted. "Maximum speed, any direction." The Wanderer turned and fled. Behind them, the Drakor vessel exploded. The blast was enormous. The shockwave caught the Wanderer and threw it spinning through space. Danny was knocked from his chair. He hit the floor hard, feeling something crack in his ribs. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the red glow of emergency systems. When Danny managed to pull himself up, he looked at the view screen. The lead Drakor ship was gone. In its place was an expanding cloud of debris. And the explosion had done more than destroy one enemy. The blast had damaged the other two Drakor vessels, leaving them wounded and vulnerable. The Valkyrie fleet, seeing their chance, pressed the attack. Blue beams concentrated on the damaged enemies. One by one, the remaining Drakor ships began to retreat, jumping into hyperspace and disappearing. The battle was over. Danny stood in the middle of his damaged bridge, surrounded by sparking wires and groaning metal. Lisa was helping Kevin up from the floor. Megan was clutching her arm, which was bleeding from a cut. But they were alive. "Damage report," Danny said, his voice hoarse. Lisa looked around. "Hull breached in 7 locations. Life support is at 50%. Engines are damaged, but functional. Half our systems are offline." She paused and then smiled despite everything. "But we are still here, Captain." The view screen flickered, and Sovereign Valara's face appeared. Her expression had changed completely. The cold arrogance was gone. In its place was something Danny had not expected to see. Respect. "Human Captain," she said slowly, as if each word was difficult to speak. "You have done what our entire fleet could not. You have driven back the Drakor. You have saved countless lives." She paused, and Danny could see the struggle in her eyes. "The Valkyrie Empire is in your debt." Princess Elindra appeared beside her mother. Her violet eyes were shining with an emotion Danny could not name. "Our council requests your presence aboard the flagship," the princess said. "There is much to discuss, and I believe we owe you more than just words." Danny nodded slowly. "We would be honored, Princess." As the connection closed, Danny looked at his battered crew and his broken ship. They had won. Against all odds, against every logical expectation, they had won. He did not know what would come next, but he knew one thing for certain. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy, and they had done it in a way no one would ever forget. The shuttle that carried Danny and his crew to the Valkyrie flagship was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It moved without sound, gliding through space as smoothly as a fish through water. The interior was made of some kind of crystal that glowed softly from within, casting gentle light on everything. Even the seats seemed to be alive, adjusting themselves to fit each person perfectly. Megan sat next to Danny, her injured arm now wrapped in bandages that Kevin had applied. Lisa sat across from them, her eyes constantly moving, studying everything around her. Kevin was pressed against the window, watching the massive Valkyrie flagship grow larger as they approached. "That ship is incredible," Kevin whispered. "It must be 5 kilometers long. The technology required to build something like that is centuries beyond ours." "Maybe," Danny said quietly. "But technology did not win that battle. We did." The shuttle docked smoothly, and when the doors opened, Danny was not prepared for what waited for them. A long corridor stretched before them, lined on both sides with Valkyrie officers. They stood at attention, their heads bowed, their membranes folded flat against their heads, and what Danny guessed was a sign of respect as the humans walked forward. The Valkyrie did not look up. They remained bowed until Danny and his crew had passed. It was like walking through a dream. "What is happening?" Megan whispered. A Valkyrie officer stepped forward. His skin was deep blue, marking him as older and more experienced. "Captain Cole, I am Admiral Cathari. It is my honor to escort you to the council chamber." "Thank you, Admiral," Danny said. "But I do not understand. A few hours ago, your people thought we were primitive and useless." The Admiral's violet eyes met Danny's. "A few hours ago, we were wrong. The Valkyrie value wisdom, Captain. And wisdom includes admitting when you have made a mistake." He gestured for them to follow. "This way, please." They walked through corridors of impossible beauty. The walls seemed to be made of living metal that flowed and changed like water. Windows showed the stars outside, and Danny could see the debris from the battle still floating in space. A reminder of how close they had come to destruction. Finally, they reached the council chamber. It was even more impressive in person than it had been on the view screen. The ceiling rose so high that Danny could barely see the top, and the tiered seats held hundreds of Valkyrie, all watching in silence as the humans entered. At the center stood Princess Alindra. She had changed from her earlier robes into something simpler, a flowing dress of pale silver that matched her skin. But despite the simpler clothes, she somehow seemed more powerful than before. More real. Sovereign Valara sat on her throne behind her daughter, watching with an expression that was difficult to read. The other council members murmured among themselves, but fell silent as Danny approached. "Captain Danny Cole of Earth," Princess Alindra said, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. "You stand before the Valkyrie High Council. Do you understand the significance of this moment?" Danny shook his head honestly. "I am just a cargo captain, Princess. I do not know much about significance or politics. I only know that we did what we thought was right." "What you thought was right," Alindra repeated. She began to walk slowly around Danny, studying him like a scientist studying a new species. "In all our recorded history, spanning 50,000 years and countless civilizations, no species has ever done what you did today. Many have allied with us for profit, others for territory or power. Some have fought beside us because they feared a greater enemy. But you had none of these motivations." She stopped in front of him, her violet eyes searching his face. "You were a stranger in our space. We showed you nothing but arrogance and contempt. We laughed at your offer of friendship. We dismissed your species as primitive and insignificant. And yet, when the Dracor attacked, you did not hesitate. You threw yourself into battle, knowing you would probably die." "Why?" Danny thought about the question. Everyone was watching him. Hundreds of ancient, wise aliens waiting for his answer. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. But in the end, the answer was simple. "Because you needed help," he said. "That is all. You were in danger, and we could do something about it. Where I come from, that is enough reason." Murmurs spread through the council. Danny could not tell if they were good or bad. "Your species is young," said one of the older council members. "You have existed for only a fraction of our history. Your technology is primitive. Your knowledge of the galaxy is almost nothing. By every measure we use to judge civilizations, you are barely worth noticing." "Advisor Malteth speaks the truth," another counselor added. "This was a fortunate accident. The humans got lucky. It does not change what they are." Princess Alindra turned to face the council, and Danny saw something flash in her eyes. "Anger. A fortunate accident," she repeated coldly. "Is that what you saw today?" Because I watched those humans fly directly toward the most powerful Dracor warship in the galaxy. I watched them hold their course while our own ships were being destroyed around them. I watched them find a weakness that none of our advanced sensors had detected, and I watched them hit a target 2 meters wide from 500 meters away while being fired upon. That was not luck. That was courage. That was skill. That was something we have forgotten how to be. The chamber fell silent. No one dared to speak against the princess. Alindra turned back to Danny. Captain Cole, my mother believes humans are too young and too weak to matter in galactic affairs. Many on this council share her view. They see your actions as an anomaly, a random event that means nothing. She paused, and Danny saw her expression soften. But I do not share that view. I watched you today, Captain. I heard what you said before the battle. You told us that you do not need to know someone to do the right thing. You just do it. She shook her head slowly. The Volcari have existed for 50,000 years. We have built wonders and conquered stars. We have accumulated knowledge and power beyond measure. And yet, in all that time, we never learned that simple lesson. She took a step closer to Danny. You asked me earlier what I see when I look at humans. Let me tell you. And then Princess Alindra did something that made the entire council gasp. She lowered herself to one knee before Danny, her head bowed, her silver hair falling around her face like a curtain. Danny heard Lisa inhale sharply behind him. He heard the shocked whispers of the Volcari, but he could not move. He could only stare at the princess kneeling before him. I see the future, Alindra said softly. I see a species that calculates the odds and fights anyway. That offers kindness to strangers who have shown them none. That measures worth not by age or power, but by the willingness to help. I see a species that the galaxy needs, whether it knows it yet or not. She looked up at Danny, her violet eyes shining. Captain Cole, on behalf of myself and those who share my vision, I formally request an alliance between the Volcari Empire and the human race. Not as payment for what you did today, but as recognition of what you are. Not as charity to a younger species, but as partnership between equals. The council erupted into chaos. Voices shouted over each other. Some supported the princess. Others called her mad. Sovereign Valara rose from her throne, her face unreadable. My daughter speaks for herself, the sovereign said, her voice cutting through the noise. Such an alliance would require the council's approval. Alindra rose to her feet and faced her mother without fear. Then let them vote. Let every member of this council look at what these humans did today, and tell me honestly that they see weakness. Tell me that they see a fortunate accident. Tell me that they see a species not worth knowing. The chamber fell silent again. Very well, Sovereign Valara said. The council will vote. Danny watched as hundreds of Volcari raised their hands. He did not know their system, did not know what the gestures meant. But he saw Alindra's face, and he saw the smile that slowly spread across her features. The vote was unanimous. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Transit Point 7, and the galaxy was beginning to change. News of what the humans had done spread from system to system, carried by traders and diplomats and spies. A young species from a small planet had faced the Dracor and won. It seemed impossible. Many refused to believe it. But the evidence was undeniable, and slowly, the universe began to pay attention to Earth. Danny Cole stood in the construction bay of the Volcari homeworld, watching human and alien engineers work side by side. The project before them was ambitious beyond anything either species had attempted alone. They were building a new kind of ship, one that combined Volcari elegance with human practicality. It would be faster, stronger, and more adaptable than anything before it. Captain Cole, a familiar voice said behind him. Danny turned to find Princess Alindra approaching. She had become his most frequent companion in these months. guiding him through the complex politics of the Velkari Empire, while also learning everything she could about humanity. She was curious in a way that few of her people seemed to be, always asking questions, always wanting to understand. "Princess," Danny greeted her with a small bow. He had learned enough of Velkari customs to know what was expected. "What brings you to the construction bay?" "I wanted to see the progress." She walked to stand beside him, her violet eyes studying the partially built ship. "I wanted to speak with you. My mother has called a meeting of the Inner Council. Your presence has been requested." Danny felt a knot form in his stomach. The Inner Council was the true power behind the Velkari Empire, a small group of the oldest and most influential families. They had approved the alliance, but Danny knew that many of them still had doubts about humanity. "Any idea what this is about?" he asked. Alindra's expression grew serious. "The Drakor have been quiet since the battle. Too quiet. Our intelligence networks have detected movement in their territory. Large-scale mobilization. We believe they are preparing for something. An attack. We do not know yet. But whatever it is, it will affect the alliance. The Inner Council wants to discuss our options." Danny nodded slowly. He had hoped for more time. Time to build ships and train crews and establish proper diplomatic channels with Earth. But the universe rarely gave you what you hoped for. You dealt with what you got. "I will be there," he said. The Inner Council met in a chamber deep within the royal palace, a room so old that no one remembered who had built it. The walls were covered in symbols and writings from civilizations long dead, and the air itself seemed heavy with history. Sovereign Valara sat at the head of a long table made of black stone. Around her sat the representatives of the 5 great families, ancient Velkari whose skin had faded to deep purple with age. Princess Alindra stood behind her mother, and Danny was given a seat at the far end of the table, clearly marking his position as an outsider. "Captain Cole," Sovereign Valara began, "thank you for joining us. I trust my daughter has informed you of the situation." "She has, Your Majesty." "The Drakor are moving." "Indeed." The Sovereign pressed a button, and a holographic map appeared above the table. It showed a vast section of the galaxy, with Velkari territory marked in blue and Drakor territory in red. The red was much larger. "Our analysts have detected unusual activity in the Drakor core systems. They appear to be gathering their fleet." One of the old council members leaned forward. His name was Lord Velmuth, and he had opposed the alliance from the beginning. "The question before us is simple. Are they gathering to attack us or someone else? And if they come for us, can we stop them?" "At the Battle of Transit Point 7, we faced 3 Drakor warships," another council member said. "Our fleet, combined with the human intervention, barely survived. Our intelligence suggests the Drakor have over 500 warships in their core fleet. If they attack in force, we will be destroyed." The room fell silent. The numbers were overwhelming. Danny looked at the map, at the vast red expanse of Drakor territory, and felt the weight of impossible odds pressing down on him again. "What are our options?" he asked. Lord Velmuth looked at him with barely concealed contempt. "Our options are limited, human. We can attempt to negotiate, though the Drakor have never negotiated in their history. We can flee, abandoning our homeworld and everything we have built. Or we can fight and die." "Those are not our only options," Princess Alindra said, stepping forward. "There is another possibility." "And what is that, daughter?" Sovereign Valara asked. Alindra walked to the holographic map and expanded it. The view pulled back, showing more of the galaxy. Beyond Velkari space, beyond Drakor territory, there were dozens of other civilizations marked in various colors. "The Velkari have always stood alone," Alindra said. "We have considered ourselves superior to other species, uninterested in their affairs. But the humans have shown us another way. They came to our space seeking friendship and alliance. They fought for us without any expectation of reward. What if we extended the same offer to others? Lord Velmoth laughed. You suggest we beg lesser species for help? That we admit we cannot defend ourselves? I suggest we build a coalition, Alendra replied calmly. Many civilizations have suffered under the Drukor. Many have lost worlds and people to their aggression. Alone, none of us can stand against them. Together, we might have a chance. The council members looked at each other uncertainly. This was not how the Valkyrie did things. They did not ask for help. They did not form alliances with those they considered beneath them. Danny stood up. Every eye in the room turned to him. Permission to speak, Your Majesty. Sovereign Valara studied him for a long moment, then nodded. 6 months ago, I was a cargo captain, Danny said. I knew nothing about galactic politics or ancient empires or wars between civilizations. I still do not know much, but I know one thing. When we arrived at Transit Point 7, the princess asked me why we would fight for people we had just met. People who had shown us nothing but contempt. He looked around the table at the ancient, proud Valkyrie leaders. I told her that where I come from, you do not need to know someone to do the right thing. You just do it. That is how humans think. That is what we believe. And I think that is exactly what the galaxy needs right now. He pointed at the map. Look at all those civilizations out there. Each of them alone. Each of them afraid. Each of them waiting for the Drukor to come. What if you gave them hope? What if you showed them that the mighty Valkyrie are willing to stand with them, fight with them, maybe even die with them? Not because you need their help, but because it is the right thing to do. The room was silent. Lord Velmoth's expression had changed from contempt to something else. Something thoughtful. The human speaks well, he admitted reluctantly. But words do not win wars. No, Danny agreed. But they start alliances. And alliances win wars. Sovereign Valara rose from her seat. Everyone fell silent. My daughter has proposed a bold plan, she said slowly. Captain Cole has supported it. The risk is enormous. If we fail to build this coalition, we will have revealed our weakness to our enemies and gain nothing. She paused. But the alternative is to wait for death. And that is not the Valkyrie way. She looked at her council. We will send ambassadors to every civilization that has suffered under the Drukor. We will offer them alliance and partnership. We will admit that we cannot win this war alone. Her eyes moved to Danny. And we will send humans with our ambassadors. To show them that change is possible. That pride can be set aside. That the galaxy's youngest species taught its oldest empire how to hope. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. As the meeting ended, Princess Alendra walked beside Danny through the palace corridors. You have changed things again, she said quietly. My people have spent 50,000 years believing we did not need anyone. You have convinced them otherwise in 6 months. Danny shrugged. I just told them what I believed. The rest was their choice. Alendra stopped walking and turned to face him. Her violet eyes searched his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Why do you do this, Danny Cole? Why do you keep fighting for a galaxy that is not your home? For people who are not your family? Danny thought about the question. He thought about Earth, so far away. About his crew, who had followed him into the impossible. About Megan and Lisa and Kevin, who had trusted him with their lives. Because someone has to, he finally said. Because if not us, then who? Alendra smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human. There is a word in my language, she said. Velkathari. It means one who carries light into darkness. There is no higher honor among my people. She reached out and touched his hand gently. You are Velkathari, Danny Cole, whether you know it or not. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the Drukor were gathering their forces. War was coming. But for the first time in 300 years, the galaxy was not facing it alone. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Transit Point 7. The galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. The Galactic Coalition, as it came to be known, now included 37 different species. Ships from 100 worlds patrolled the borders of the Alliance, watching for Draco movement. Engineers and scientists from every corner of civilized space worked together on new technologies. And at the center of it all stood humanity, the youngest species in the coalition. Yet somehow the one that held everything together. Danny Cole stood on the balcony of the human embassy on the Volcari homeworld, watching twin suns set over the crystalline spires of the capital city. The sky turned shades of purple and gold that had no names in any Earth language. Behind him, the sounds of celebration drifted through open windows. Today marked the first anniversary of the Alliance, and representatives from every coalition world had gathered to honor the occasion. He should have been inside, shaking hands and making speeches. That was what ambassadors did, and somewhere along the way, the cargo captain from Ohio had become humanity's first ambassador to the stars. But Danny had never been comfortable with attention. He preferred the quiet moments, the spaces between the chaos where he could think. "You are hiding again." Danny smiled without turning around. He knew that voice. Princess Alindra walked up beside him, her silver dress catching the dying sunlight. She had changed in the past year, though Danny could not quite identify how. She seemed more relaxed, more willing to laugh. The rigid formality that had marked their first meeting had melted away, replaced by something warmer. "Not hiding," Danny said. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how strange life is." He gestured at the city spread out before them. "A year ago, I was worried about making my cargo deliveries on time. Now I am standing on an alien planet, watching an alien sunset, with an alien princess asking me what I am thinking about." Alindra laughed. It was a sound Danny had grown to appreciate, like crystal chimes in a gentle wind. "When you say it that way, it does sound rather improbable." "Improbable is an understatement." Danny finally turned to look at her. "Your people have been watching the stars for 50,000 years. Mine have barely been in space for a few centuries. How did we end up here?" Alindra considered the question seriously. "I have thought about this often. When you first arrived, I saw exactly what everyone else saw. A small ship. A young species. Nothing of importance." She paused. "But then the Dracor attacked, and everything changed. Not because of what you did, though that was remarkable, but because of why you did it. We just wanted to help." "Exactly." Alindra's violet eyes held his gaze. "You wanted to help. That was all. No calculation. No strategic advantage. No ancient debt or political obligation. You saw strangers in danger, and you acted. Do you understand how rare that is?" Danny shrugged. "Where I come from, that is just how people are." "That is exactly my point." Alindra stepped closer. "The Volcari spent 50,000 years accumulating knowledge and power. We conquered stars and built wonders. But somewhere along the way, we lost something important. We became so focused on survival, on maintaining our greatness, that we forgot why greatness matters." She reached out and took his hand. Danny felt a warmth spread through him at the contact. "You reminded us," she said softly. "You reminded all of us. That is why the coalition works. Not because of technology or military strength or diplomatic skill. It works because you showed us a different way to be." Danny did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as special. He had just done what felt right. "The Dracor are still out there," he said finally. "Our scouts report they are almost finished gathering their fleet. The war is coming." "Yes," Alindra agreed. "It is coming. Perhaps within months, Are we ready? Alindra turned to look out at the city. The Coalition has assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. 3,000 ships from 37 species. We have new weapons and new strategies. We have allies where once there were only strangers. She paused. Are we ready? I do not know. But we have something the galaxy has never had before. We have hope. She looked back at Danny. When you arrived at Transit Point 7, I was revealed to myself. I saw my own people through your eyes, and I found us wanting. Your response to our arrogance, your willingness to die for those who had dismissed you, it spoke volumes. But it was a language I had never learned. What language is that? Selflessness, Alindra said simply. The idea that others matter as much as yourself. That doing good does not require reward. That courage means acting even when victory is uncertain. These are human concepts. My people had forgotten them, if we ever knew them at all. Danny squeezed her hand gently. You learned them fast enough. Look at what you have built. Look at the Coalition, at the friendships between species that never spoke before. That was not us. That was you. It was both of us. Alindra smiled. And that is the point, is it not? Neither of us could have done this alone. The galaxy needed the Valkyria's wisdom and experience. It needed human hope and courage. It needed all of us working together. The celebration inside had grown louder. Danny could hear music now, a strange blend of melodies from different worlds, somehow harmonizing into something beautiful. We should probably go back in, he said reluctantly. In a moment. Alindra held his hand tighter. I want to tell you something first. Something I have been meaning to say for a long time. Danny waited, his heart beating faster. When this war comes, when we face the Drakor fleet, there is a good chance we will not survive. The odds are against us. They always have been. Alindra's voice was calm, accepting. But because of you, because of what humans brought to this galaxy, we will face those odds together. We will fight not as scattered civilizations waiting to die, but as one people united by a common cause. And even if we fall, we will fall knowing that we tried, that we stood for something. She turned to face him fully, her violet eyes shining in the fading light. That is your gift to the galaxy, Danny Cole. Not victory. Not technology. Not even alliance. You gave us the courage to try. You showed us that trying matters, even when winning is uncertain. And that is something that can never be taken away. Danny looked at the princess standing before him, the heir to an empire 50,000 years old, who had knelt before a cargo captain from Earth and asked for friendship. In that moment, he understood something he had not understood before, that it did not matter that humans were young. It did not matter that their technology was primitive or their history short. What mattered was what they believed, how they acted, what they were willing to sacrifice. Those things had no age. They had no species. They were simply human, in the best sense of the word. Whatever happens next, Danny said, I want you to know something. I am glad we came to Transit Point 7. I am glad we met you. Whatever happens, this past year has been worth it. Alindra smiled, and in that smile Danny saw hope for the future. Hope that transcended species and history and the darkness gathering at the edge of known space. Come, she said, pulling him gently toward the celebration. Let us enjoy tonight. Tomorrow we begin preparing for war. But tonight, we celebrate what we have built, what we have become. As they walked back into the embassy, surrounded by the sounds of joy and fellowship from 100 different worlds, Danny allowed himself to believe that they might actually win, that the Coalition might actually survive, that humanity's first step into the galaxy might lead somewhere beautiful instead of somewhere terrible. The future was uncertain. The Drakor were coming, but for the first time in galactic history, the free peoples of the universe were ready to meet them. Together. and that made all the difference. High above the celebration, the stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the struggles below. But among those stars, something new had been born. An alliance forged in crisis, strengthened by hope, and held together by the simple human belief that helping others is always worth the risk. When Danny Cole had arrived at Transit Point 7, he had been a nobody, a cargo captain in the wrong place at the wrong time. But his response to that moment had spoken volumes, and the galaxy had listened. Now the galaxy would answer.